certain public safety costs. How is it bad in your mind for public safety to work with ICE?
So first, I got to explain what this partnership was. It was something called a 287G partnership, which is a section of the Immigration Naturalization Act which allows local law enforcement agencies to voluntarily perform immigration enforcement on behalf of ICE. And what happens is when you mix local law enforcement with ICE, that torches the relationship between immigrant communities who we rely on to call 911, to report crime, to come into the courthouse and testify. And since my predecessor announced this partnership, we saw a drop in 911 calls and in people from immigrant communities reaching out to the police, and that makes everybody less safe.
Okay, so you're saying that those are what you, I guess, would call certain public safety costs. That said, DHS has put out a list of those who were arrested in Bucks County. Alfredo Sanchez of Venezuela, convicted of assault. Santos Alfaro of Guatemala, convicted of exploitation of a minor. James Argant of Haiti, burglary, shoplifting, trespassing, burglary. Jorge Mendoza Garcia of Mexico, rape, strong-arm sex offense, forgery, lewd or lascivious acts with a minor, sexual exploitation of a minor. Are those not also real costs of the Sheriff's Department not doing real immigration enforcement, as you said?
Those people were detained and deported, as they should be. And I want to be very clear, we've maintained a relationship with ICE when it comes to people who are actually in our county jail. Being out on the campaign trail over the last year, what I saw is most people want the same thing. They want a secure border, they want actual criminals deported, and they want the people who are just here because they want the same quality of life as everybody else, they want them to be left alone. And you listed, and the Department of Homeland Security listed a number of people who were properly deported under the processes that we have, but they did not list the dozens and dozens of people who had no criminal records, including 14 people just a few miles from where I'm sitting right now, who are taken from a grocery store, mothers taken from their children.
So what you're saying essentially is the kind of middle ground that what you're hoping for is a middle ground. Those 14 people, though, who were deported were here illegally, right?
Yes.
Okay, do we know if any of them had criminal records?
Our understanding is that that particular raid, those were collateral arrests. So there was one individual that ICE was seeking who did have a criminal record, but through a system called collateral arrests where you can make other arrests as part of the initial one, that is how those additional people were taken.
Okay, so you're saying that ICE shouldn't do that?
Correct. Look, most of the people who are here in the country illegally are, they're following the rules, aside from how they entered the country or their current immigration status. They are following the rules. Most of them are paying taxes through an individual
Are we really going to debate illegal? Hold on, but I have limited time. I just want to get to this. I think you're arguing basically that if you've not committed other crimes while you're here, and this is a political issue, not a law enforcement issue, right? That you think they should be able to stay here. But let me just get to this. Do you not worry, though, as the sheriff, that criminals seek safe havens and safe harbors? Don't you think that criminals who are here illegally would say, hey, Bucks County's getting a little easier, I'm going to go post up there, where I'm not going to get asked by the Sheriff's Department?
And that's the thing. That's not what's happening here. And that's not what Bucks Countyans want. We want bona fide criminals to be deported. And actually, if you continued playing that press conference, we said we are going to continue to cooperate with ICE to ensure that people who are incarcerated can be detained and deported. However, when we have a situation where people in our community can't call 911,
Sheriff,
they can't come into the courthouse.
I hear you've said it. I apologize. We got to run. More time with you whenever you'd like. We'd love to have you back. We'll be right back.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.